So we started with forward commitments. In forward commitments, we discussed forward contracts, futures, and swaps, and then we moved on to contingent claims. In contingent claims, we discussed options, and within options, we discussed call options and put options. Now, another type of contingent claims is credit derivatives. So what are credit derivatives? Credit derivatives are those derivatives in which return is dependent on some credit event. What do we mean by credit event? It means something which is impacting the credit risk or credit quality. So within credit derivatives, there are different types of instruments, but before we go into it, some key points to remember are that what is the underlying in credit derivatives? Underlying is generally credit risk. That is, return will depend on some type of credit risk. If credit risk changes, return will change. There are two parties in general, protection buyer and protection seller. Protection buyer, so if there is a credit risk, that means there is some party which is buying the protection against that credit risk through derivative, and there is some party which is selling protection against that credit risk through derivative. So that party which is buying protection against credit risk is protection buyer, and the party which is selling protection is known as protection seller. So protection buyer will gain from derivative if credit risk goes up. So protection buyer will lose out on asset but gain from derivative if credit risk goes up, and protection seller will lose on derivative if credit risk goes up, and vice versa. But in this case, it will benefit from asset. Any problem? Okay, so now let's discuss different types of instrument. So one of the types is total return swap. What is a total return swap? Let's say there is a party, it has a bond. There is an investor who holds a bond. This bond pays interest, principal, and also if bond's value change, that is a gain or loss to protection buyer. What is the risk to this party or this protection buyer? The risk is that bond can default. It might not be able to pay interest or principal or whatever. So in order to hedge this risk, what protection buyer can do is, or this party can do is, it can go to another party, which is a protection seller, and it can enter into an agreement that whatever return I receive from bond, I will give it to you. So whatever comes in goes to you. In return, you pay me a fixed rate or a floating rate. What does it mean? It means that if this goes up, protection seller benefits. If this defaults, protection seller loses out. Protection buyer is safe because it is receiving the fixed or floating rate. So even if this bond cash flows from bond go up or go down, that is not a concern for protection buyer. So protection buyer has removed the risk associated with this bond and have converted that into a fixed or floating rate. This is known as total return swap. That is, total return is being paid, and against that some return is being received as fixed or floating. So it is a kind of swap, and in this swap, one series of payment is total return from bond and another series is fixed or floating rate. This, yeah, so it will be lower. Why? Because it will account for the risk which protection seller is taking. क्या मतलब? रेट क्रेडिट रिस्क के पे डिपेंड करके सेट होगा ना. So protection seller is providing, if this credit risk is higher, then it will pay a lower rate. If credit risk is low, then it will pay a higher rate. So rate will be decided based on the expectation of default. If there is expectation of default, this rate will be very low. If there is no expectation of default, this rate will be higher. So this rate will depend on the credit quality of this instrument, that how much risk is it taking. In any case, present value, this rate will be decided in such a way that present value of this rate equals the present value of bond cash flows. And when you calculate this present value and this present value, you will also account for probability of default. That is, you multiply the cash flow with the probability of default. The rate at which these two become equal, that rate will be set at this rate. So for this swap to initiate, present value of both the lags should be equal. So in any swap, present value of both the lags should be equal for it to initiate. And credit spread option. So for example, there is a risk that credit risk can go up. If credit risk goes up, credit spread will go up. If credit spread goes up, you will end up borrowing at higher rate. Or your bond, if you hold a bond, its price will fall because it is inversely proportional to or inversely related to the rate. So in order to hedge this risk, what protection buyer can do is, let's say this is the protection buyer, he wants to borrow some loan in future, or maybe he holds a bond. So what he can do is he can buy a call option. What is a call option? This is the call option on credit spread. What does it mean? This is an option to borrow at a specific credit spread. So if credit spread goes up, protection buyer is able to borrow at a lower credit spread. So that means it is safe. So it has hedged credit spread risk. Who is bearing it? Protection seller. Why would protection seller bear it? In order to bear this risk, he will charge for a premium. That is, he will sell the option for a premium. When you buy an option, you pay a price, you pay a premium. That is the option premium. So protection buyer pays option premium and gets call option. If credit risk goes up, credit spread goes up, this protection buyer will exercise the call option and benefit. Credit linked note, again a derivative in which outcome or the cash flow or the return is dependent on the credit risk of the underlying asset. So for example, credit protection buyer holds a bond or loan that is subject to default risk, and it issues its own security with the condition that if bond or loan defaults, principal payoff on credit linked note is reduced accordingly. What does it mean? So let's say this is a party A, it has a bond. The risk is that bond can default. So what A do is A issue securities, and in this securities it form a contract that the securities principal will be paid through bonds principal. If bond defaults on principal payment, principal to securities will not be paid. This is known as credit linked note. Why? Because this note is linked to credit risk of some other asset. If credit risk increases here, the risk increases here as well, or losses increases here. If a default happens here, a loss happens here. So this A is safe. Why? Because if A knows if it defaults, I will also default here. So A is safe. A has transferred credit risk from itself to others. This is credit linked note. Asset backed securities, we have discussed it earlier in fixed income securities. That is the securities which are backed by a pool of assets. So if anything happens to these assets, if they default, securities will default or will go into losses, or the value will decrease. Credit default swap. So if I have to summarize credit default swap in one word, then it is an insurance. What happens in insurance? In insurance, there is a party which wants to buy insurance and there is a party which wants to sell insurance. So there is a protection buyer, there is a protection, seller. When you get insurance, what do? Why would other party provide you insurance? Because you pay a premium. How do you pay a premium? You make periodic payments. For example, monthly payment or semi-annual or quarterly or annual. And against that, this party guarantees you that if loss happens to you, I will make up for it. So this is known as credit default swap. Let's say there is a party which has lended loan to a borrower. Now this borrower needs to make payment to the to this party A. So let's say borrower is B. So B needs to make a payment to A. Why? Because B has borrowed money from A. What is the risk to A? Risk to A is that B can default. So A goes to another party C, which is a CDS seller, and enters into a contract that I will make periodic payments to you. Let's say every year, every month, or whatever. And in return, you give me a facility that if B defaults, you will compensate me for losses. If B does not default, you wouldn't have to pay anything. I will still pay you periodic payment. But if B defaults, then you will make up for that amount. So this is a kind of insurance which A has taken from C, and against that it is paying an insurance premium, which is periodic payment. This kind of swap, so this is a swap. Why swap? Because you are paying a series of payment and you are expected to receive a payment. So this is a swap of payment, paying one cash flow, receiving another cash flow. And what kind of swap? It is a credit default swap. That this swap will happen, this other payment will be received when credit default happens. So this is a credit default swap, which is contingent on credit default, in which one payment is contingent on credit default happening. So generally, if credit risk goes up, demand for CDS will go up. If demand goes up, price goes up. If credit risk goes down, demand for CDS will go down and price will go down. So price of CDS is a good reflective of the demand, is good reflective of the credit risk. And hybrids, we discussed that hybrids can include swaptions, it can include callable bond, it can include puttable bond, it can include convertible bond. What are the underlyings in derivative? It can be equity, it can be fixed income, it can be currency, commodity, credit, other, it can be any underlying. There can be a derivative or there can be a contract on anything. Purpose and benefits of derivatives: risk allocation, transfer and management, information discovery. How information discovery? So derivatives are futures markets. So if futures market move, that you will get to, if there is a movement in futures market, then you will get to know something about the expectations of investors or traders from the future. So they help with information discovery. Operational advantages. Operational advantages includes that there is high liquidity, low transaction cost in derivative markets. Market efficiency, so if there is high liquidity, low transaction cost, and if investors are able to manage risk, or if investors are able to trade what they want to trade, then that obviously increases the market efficiency. So these are key purposes and benefits: risk allocation, information discovery, operational advantages. Also, it enables you to take short positions easily. What are criticisms? That the derivatives, although they are a very good tool for risk management, sometimes investors, traders may use it for speculation and gambling. And if it is used for speculation and gambling, that will destabilize the market and increase the market risk. And the market risk is known as systematic risk. So this is criticism. This ends with elementary principles of derivative pricing. So next reading is on the derivative pricing. So we will discuss these principles there, but just to give you some uh, key points before we start next reading and before we go into next reading. So some key fundamental principles to remember about derivative pricing are, first of all, derivative pricing, or when you calculate estimate price of derivative or perform valuation of derivative, it is based on no arbitrage principle. So derivative pricing assumes that there is no arbitrage. What do we mean by no arbitrage? It means market is arbitrage free. This is the assumption of derivative, one of the key assumptions of derivative pricing. So the pricing which you do for derivative is known as arbitrage free pricing or arbitrage free valuation. What do we mean by arbitrage free? Which it means the market in which there is no arbitrage. What is arbitrage? Arbitrage is when you make a profit with zero investment and no risk. If you make a profit without investing anything, without taking any risk, that transaction is known as arbitrage transaction or arbitrage trade. How does it happen? So let's say there is a market A, there is a market B, and there is asset X. Asset X has a price of $100 here and has a price of $105 here. So you can start buying here and selling in other market. You buy here, sell here, or you sell here, buy here. That gives you a profit without any risk. How without investment? Because you can sell first and then buy. That is short sell and then recover position from here. Or you take a loan or you do margin trade, so zero investment again. This is arbitrage trade. And if I tell you that same asset trades for same price in both the markets, then that is known as law of one price. And if law of one price is followed, then there is no arbitrage opportunity. If law of one price is effective or is followed, then there is no arbitrage opportunity. Otherwise, there is arbitrage opportunity. Any confusion so far? Another key point to notice that arbitrage opportunity can itself lead to law of one price. That is, if there is arbitrage opportunity, that can lead to law of one price becoming effective in the market. How will it happen? So let's say there is a arbitrage opportunity. Asset sells for $100 here, 105 here. So you buy it here, sell it in other market. So when everyone starts buying it, its price will go up. When everyone starts selling it, its price will go down. So eventually these two will converge. It will, let's say, become 102 here and 102 here. So law of one price will eventually prevail. So that means if arbitrage trade happens, or if arbitrage trades can easily be done, or if there are no restrictions to arbitrage trades, then that will eventually lead to law of one price prevailing in the market, and that will increase market efficiency. That means if investors or traders are allowed to make arbitrage trades, then that will actually increase market efficiency. Otherwise, if they are not allowed, then market efficiency will be impeded or sacrificed. Any problem so far? Which of the sorry, that was one principle which I talked about, arbitrage free market. That is one assumption. Another key assumption of derivative pricing is that investor is risk neutral. What does it mean? This means investor does not demand premium for risk. And so remember, whenever we price or value derivatives, we use a risk-free rate. So derivatives are always priced or valued on risk-free rate, using risk-free rate without any premium. And that is because the assumption is investor is risk neutral. Third is concept of storage cost and convenience yield. What is the storage cost? So let's say there is a commodity for, let's say, oil. You have two options. You either buy it today or you enter into a forward contract to buy in future. If you buy today, you will store it. If you store it, will be some storage cost. If you delay your buying or if you enter into a forward contract to buy it in future, then there is no storage cost. That means when you are calculating forward price, the formula generally or simply is forward price into S into 1 plus R to the power T. But that is not enough. If you are entering into a forward contract, you are actually not bearing the storage cost. And who is bearing it? The counterparty is bearing it. If counterparty is bearing it, counterparty will also charge you for this storage cost. So this cost needs to be added. And similarly, if there is a benefit, that benefit needs to be subtracted. So for example, if it is not oil, it is a equity share and it pays a dividend, that dividend is a benefit. So if you are not buying it today, you will forego that dividend, and who will receive it? The counterparty. So that needs to be subtracted. Any problem? And all these needs to be at the same point of time to be added or subtracted. That is, if I am taking a spot price in future at time t, I should also take the future value of storage cost at time t and future value of benefit at time t. If I am taking this as present value, then this should also be present value, this should also be present value. Any problem? So remember these key principles of derivative pricing: storage cost added, benefit subtracted, risk assumption. Two key assumptions are arbitrage free market and risk neutral investors. And this brings us to the end of the reading. Which of the following is a result of arbitrage? When you do arbitrage trade, what will happen? Law of one price will become effective. When an arbitrage opportunity exists, what happens in the market? Combined actions of all arbitrageurs forces the prices to converge. Which of the following accurately defines arbitrage? An opportunity to make a profit at no risk, correct? An opportunity to make a profit at no risk and with the investment of no capital. So B is the right answer because there are two conditions. Which of the following ways best describes how arbitrage contributes to market efficiency? Arbitrage penalizes those who trade too rapidly. Arbitrage equalizes the risk taken. Arbitrage improves the rate at which prices converge to their fair value. That means prices will converge more quickly. So C is your answer. So A, B, and C. Any problem, confusion so far up till here?